In this video, we'll be looking at how to leverage some of the custom features in Flow Designer to automate and enrich your communication processes. We'll be creating a flow that uses an HTTP trigger with incoming actionable information from a monitoring tool, which passes that information to an xMatters switch to decide the course of action to take. The trigger then notifies the correct on-call resources with a data-enriched notification, using a custom integration to create an Amazon Alexa voice alert to our operations team. It then uses the response information from the notification to play another voice alert to our operations team, letting them know who has taken ownership of the issue. The goal of this demo will be understanding the principle behind using triggers, variables, and custom steps with Flow Designer. So let's get started. We'll start by creating the two properties we need for this alert, Details and Service, in the Properties tab. Let's make the Details property quite long and leave the Service the default length. Then let's create the form for our alert. All we need to do is drag the properties we created onto the form and save so we can use it in the message. Let's then add a short but actionable message to our alert using the properties we created to inform our on-call resource so they can take action. The last step we need is the responses. Let's add an acknowledge and an escalate response. Then go back to our workflow and enable this form for all services. Now we can move on to the Flow Designer and start the fun stuff. First, we'll add an HTTP trigger. This kind of trigger can read enriched information from external systems. Give it an easy-to-identify name, and let's customize the icon. Change the current state to deployed so it's fully functional, and we can leave the rest of it as is. We'll be using two variables as outputs, service and details. Service contains the potential systems we could have issues with, and details contains the technical information to relay to our support teams. In the scripting tab, let's add a short script transforming this data from JSON in the request body to xMatters variables, and add it to the canvas. Next, let's add a switch and connect it to the trigger. This will let the switch read the outputs from the trigger and decide which team to notify. Select the service property, and then Done. Let's add two service paths for this example. If the service variable is web or network, our switch will follow the path for that option. If the service variable is blank or doesn't match any of the above options, the default path will be followed. Now let's make two Create Alert Using a Form steps, one for each of our paths. Connect them both to the switch options, and let's edit the web alert. Select the form we created earlier, and then add a unique incident ID and target the web team who is responsible for this service. Now expand the Monitoring Tool X tab and drag each of the two variables into the two properties fields of the form. This will replace these properties in our form with the contents of the variables from our monitoring tool. It's time to create our custom Alexa step. First, we need an endpoint. Every time we communicate with an external tool, we need to add an endpoint to connect to it. We'll be using Notify Me, an app that plays notifications on your Amazon Alexa. The authentication will be done with an API key in the script, so we can select No Authentication. Now let's add our custom step. We'll call it Alexa Notify Issue. Let's fill in some details and change its state to deployed, and check Include Endpoint, allow any endpoint. On the Inputs tab, let's add Message, so we can add text and variables to the message. Then on the Script tab, we'll add our script, making sure to reference our endpoints, and add the message input as a notification to speak. If you want to learn more about scripting in xMatters, you can find a complete scripting reference on our help site at help.xmatters.com. Now, connect the custom step to both notifications. Edit the step. On the Endpoint tab, let's select the endpoint we created earlier and add the variables and text into the message input. and click Done. Next, add a responses trigger. The trigger will automatically include the response options we created earlier in the form. If the Escalate response was selected, the notification will notify the next user in the escalation order, so we don't really need to add any further action here. But if an Acknowledge response was selected, let's add our Alexa custom step again using the variables from the responses trigger. Let's add the responder's first name and last name, and then a short message to our operations team, letting them know who the issue has been assigned to. To represent our monitoring tool and trigger the flow, we'll be using a REST client. This will trigger the alert and pass the actionable information in the same way as any external system would. Now we've finished our flow, let's test it out. We'll trigger the flow and see what happens.
There is a problem with web. The details are the website is experiencing an outage.
Let's acknowledge the notification from our xMatters mobile app.
John Herson has responded and is taking ownership of the issue.
And done. Let's open our activity panel and take a closer look at what happened. The activity panel shows us the steps followed in the flow and a detailed log showing us exactly what happened at each point. If our flow had failed or behaved unexpectedly, we can use this log to find and correct any issues. Hopefully this demo has given you a lot of ideas on how you can use Flow Designer in your incident resolution processes. To get started with Flow Designer yourself, sign up for xMatters free at xmatters.com/free. And if you have any questions or suggestions, please let us know in the comments. If you found this video helpful, I hope you'll consider giving it a like and subscribing. Have a great day.